Well, Wade, it's almost Christmas.
Just about.
And Christmas Eve is an interesting time of year for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've
That
done
is
lots
true.
of things on Christmas Eve, but we're going to talk about my family tradition when I was growing up. I'm an only kid, so it was just me and my folks, and we lived in the West. We lived in Arizona when I was growing up. So we often would fix Mexican type meal
For Christmas Eve,
for
right?
Christmas
Yeah.
Eve, and then we'd usually munch on stuff on Christmas Day. Like I said, it was just the three of us, so we'd have Mexican food. So today, since we're continuing our family traditions, we're going to go with what was it?
Mexican,
No,
no, tamale pie?
it's tamale pie.
Yeah,
Yes.
Mexican tamale pie.
Well, tamale pie is Mexican, dear.
Well, it is, I guess. Yeah, tamales are Mexican, so, and,
But it's Wade's recipe, and
yeah.
it's a really good
So
recipe.
it's kind of a mix of my recipe and mixing it into your
My
family
tradition.
traditions, so.
It's something, when you have children, you have to cook stuff they like, which isn't always easy with
No.
our bunch, is it?
No, sometimes.
So this is a recipe that Leslie really liked, but Eric could tolerate. He doesn't like melted stringy cheese.
Yeah, he's kind of weird.
But-
Sometimes.
But at any rate, we're going to go get it ready and show you how we make it.
All right, hope you enjoy it. All right, the first step in doing our tamale pie is to cook our meat mixture. And I've already got a bit of charcoal going in our flue, and they're not ready to cook on yet, but while the flue's going, we're gonna go ahead and start frying. So I got a little top off of an old side of our barbecue grill, put that on top of the flue, and we're using a 12-inch large skillet today. We'll just set that on top. And since we're frying, we can have a pretty good amount of heat, and we're going to have quite a bit of heat coming up there. So we'll save our energy, get this started before the charcoal is completely done. All right, our meat is starting to cook, so we're going to add our dry seasonings, starting with seasoned salt. We're going to add some black pepper. We're going to add chili powder. This is actually a Southwest dish, so we got to have some chili powder, and what of course else goes great with chili powder but none other than ground cumin. Fair amount of that. And then we also need some chopped onion. Really good stuff if you don't like cutting up and crying when you do an onion, and especially if you were out camping, this is really handy.
Or if you have somebody like me who don't like onion, would pick them out
cooks
rather
up
than
real
eat 'em.
good, gives it some flavor, but you don't have pieces of onion. And little garlic powder, and you can use fresh garlic or minced garlic, either thing. Alright, that's our dry seasoning. Alright, our meat mixture is going real good, and our charcoal, I think, is ready. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and dump it out of the flue. So let me get this out of the way and get our flue cover off. Alright. Jump our charcoal out on the table. Okay. And then we're going to spread it out a little bit.
Here, honey, let me have that flue.
Get that out. I don't want to sit it on the wood,
Yeah,
on
I
the wood
don't think
pork
that'll go
deck.
very good.
Set it off out on the ground. So we're going to spread out our charcoal a little bit. This happens to be a large lid stand. It also works great if you're doing something with a flat bottom, like this skillet. Put that right back on top of it. So that works good. So you can have a kitchen style Dutch oven and still use it for cooking. So our meat mixture is almost done. There's not enough extra grease to worry about, so Next step is what we're going to add is some
help you.
refried beans.
Yeah, you got to have those. It's kind of like your pie filling, so.
Yeah, refried beans are always good. Gotta have that in any Mexican dish. All right. And what's the next thing?
A little bit of salsa. We like
Yep.
medium.
Salt, any
medium
brand will do, so
salsa.
whatever you like. Next,
We have no real brand loyalties as far as food goes.
get my glove on. This hand was probably hot. And basically, all we're going to do now is get this incorporated into here, and our meat mixture is going to be done. Then we'll move on to our next step of making this tamale pie.
One thing about Dutch oven cooking is you can do a lot of one-pot meals, and this is most definitely a one-pot meal. But to make this a non-stick surface, you got to add your cooking spray, just like you would if you were using your Pyrex in your oven. Now, we're using a 12-inch Dutch oven, which is the same size as a 9x13 baking dish. So, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our tamales in. Now, this is kind of a messy job, and from the look of these, they're a little runny. I'm going to dump them off so I don't make a mess everywhere. Now, you can use homemade tamales. That's fine. We choose to use these. Anybody that's made tamales, which, yes, we have, knows how rough it is to make. They're very time consuming. And no, I'm not going to leave the papers in there, but I need a can empty so I can put the papers. You know, if you make them from scratch, you're making them with corn shucks. So,
Let me get you a sack, hon.
well, I'm going to put them in this can because they're
Okay.
kind of messy.
All right.
They run everywhere.
Then
I
put
just
it right
need
there
an
for a
empty
minute.
can. Okay, thank you, honey. I'll need the can for the bag for the empty cans. Now this is, I don't know why, but I always seem to wind up with the messy jobs. If you remember,
You're so good at making a mess, hon.
yes, I am all over your Dutch oven, right? Anyways, normally we would try to equal distance the tamales out of 2 cans, but I tell you, we've just decided we're going to use 3 cans today. This is such a good, this is like your pie crust, the bottom crust. And you'll see why we call it tamale pie. Got your base, which is your bottom crust. Okay, as you can see, we're getting us a good base here with all these tamales. If I can get them all out. One bad thing about using store-bought tamales is some of them are kind of look like they've been abused.
That's why we're going to hide them in the bottom. Maybe
That's
all right.
right. That's why
Nobody
they're
will
the
see
pie
them, will they?
crust. You know, your worst looking pie crust is usually a bottom pie crust. So, now, pie crust is one of them things I can't make. I've tried. His mom makes a wonderful pie crust. We buy ours.
That's why that episode not long ago we just did with apple pie, we used that store-bought pie
Yeah,
crust,
because
didn't
my
we?
pie crust comes out looking like shoe leather. Tastes like it, and the consistency of shoe leather.
Well, you and I have discussed this before. Sometimes a good store-bought is better than a failed attempt at homemade.
It is better than a failed attempt at homemade. We tried doing that one time at a campground we like going to at Rudolph Bennett, not too far from here. And I tell you what, it was cold. And that poor pie crust come out tougher than shoe leather. We ate the stuffing, or ate the pie filling and not the crust. So, as you can see, there's our foundation, or our pie crust. Then we're going to put our filling in, which is what Wade cooked. So, we'll be right back in a minute.
All right, honey, you want to come and help me dump this?
Yeah, I'm coming.
We'll pour this in here.
Oh. Cast iron is pretty heavy, so this is pretty much a 2-man job to get it dumped in there. And there I go, making a mess all over your Dutch oven again.
That's all right. We'll wipe it off.
This is not like your Tefal pan, but even if you had lighter weight pan, you probably want to get somebody to help you dump it. So, get it dumped really well. This is not like the other cooking shows. You want to make sure you get all the yum-yums
All the
out.
goodie out of there.
Okay, that's good.
All right.
Now, you want to flatten this out as much as possible. Okay, make sure you get this. This is like your pie filling if you're having a sweet pie. So this is kind of a savory pie, of course. You want to kind of get as much around on your pie crust, which is the tamales, as possible. And I'll tell you, it's getting cold out here. My fingers are getting cold.
Well, it is December, so
I know.
we're pretty
This is-
fortunate to be out here on the front porch anyway, aren't
Yeah, not snowing. You know? Although I'm a firm believer in snow just at Christmas and then be done. Okay, next is the corn. Now, I know Wade really doesn't agree with me on this, but we're going to use this whole can of corn in here. You want a good layer. Now, Wade likes using frozen corn. Either one would work. It's about cup and a half of corn.
we? Using this whole can, you said. So.
Yeah. So, but if you were
Ew.
using frozen corn, we really kind of like frozen corn better, but in the days and age of a nasty word we're not going to use, things were pretty sparse in the frozen section. Luckily, it hadn't hit the can section.
Well, and this
where I
is
went.
good if we're out camping. It's one
Yeah,
less
it
thing you
is.
gotta have refrigerated when you're
It's
camping. So
stable, shelf
yeah.
stable.
so that
Okay.
works out good for that.
Hey, honey, can you hand me the corn chips and the cheese, please?
All right, corn
There's
chips
the corn chips
and shredded
and the
cheese.
cheese. Now, we used to just put all our cheese on the top. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to spread it in throughout. Our son doesn't really like brown, stringy cheese, but he'll eat it on top of here. So, we found this works better. Put a little layer down in between your corn and your corn chips. My favorite part of this is the topping. It's nice and crunchy, and I love it.
It's kind of like we did a few months ago. We were at the Stevenson show. We
With
did
our
that
Rotel chicken.
We did
Yeah.
some cheese on the bottom, and then we did
I like
regular
that too.
corn chips. But this is more
Corn chips, like
Yeah.
well,
tortilla
these are
chips.
scoops.
Yeah.
These are more like your Fritos. Now, these I bought scoops because that was all, once again, that nasty word we don't want to talk about. You know, COVID. The chips were pretty well picked over too, so all they had were scoops. So I'm gonna crunch some of these up so they're not so big. Oh, they're like crunching up big shells. And it's going to take most, if not all, of this bag. Most of the time we'd be using Fritos on this, wouldn't we, honey?
yes.
We fixed this for a whole bunch of people, haven't we?
Yeah, it's a good.
It's a good
It's a
recipe.
kind of a variation of a recipe that my aunt used to fix when I was a kid. Back at that time, they lived out in New Mexico.
Wasn't it
And
Taos, New Mexico?
Taos, New Mexico is where they lived. And they, of course, that was that area where they did lots of Mexican food. And that was one of the dishes that she made. And I'm not for sure this is quite the same, but I know it's pretty close to it.
Well, and we like it. It's one of our favorites. I mean, it's a good thing the kids are home right now because we definitely can't eat it all. This is a good, what would you say, 4 to 8 servings, 6 to 8 servings?
Oh, yeah, I'd say.
Usually
Probably
we
8
have some-
servings easily.
We usually have some left over so we can take it in his lunch.
All right, briquettes are just getting real close. We still got quite a bit of black, so we're good shape. We're going to go ahead and show you the last little step of getting this tamale pie ready.
Alright, as you can see, this looks like the top of your pie, like your crumb pie. Well, I'm going to add a little something more to it. The rest of this cheese. Crumble that on top. Now, I'm using taco style cheese. You can use whatever kind you want. It's totally your preference. But I like a thicker layer of cheese on top. Because boy, when it's brown and yummericious, it's so good. And there we go. It's all ready to cook. Oh, but I made a mess.
Okay, well, as Angel said, talking about making a mess on the Dutch oven, and it's not just because I'm picky, but well, maybe it is because I'm picky, but one of the reasons we talk about that is cleaning off, especially around the lid, and if you got anything up around the edge you want to wipe off, and that's mainly because when you put the lid on and then you bake, that top part that gets real hot, it kind of gets crusty on there and bakes on, and it's kind of tough to get off. So if you can clean all that extra off of there before we put the lid on and bake it, you're a little bit better off and save cleanup later on.
And you're picky. Briquettes are ready.
Okay, Angel's got it all assembled, so as we just said, charcoals are ready, so we're going to go ahead and put the lid on and get this over to that oven table. Get this supper cooking. There's on the table. Let me get my tongs, help distribute. We're going to start by just dumping our charcoal on top like we normally do. Like we said earlier, we're using a 12-inch Dutch oven. This is the shallow one, which is 6 quart. And we're going to be baking. So we're going to do 1/3 on the bottom, 2/3 on top. We're going to start by putting charcoal, like we always bake, around the bottom outside edge.
Now, why is it you only put them on the outside edge?
Well, the reason is, as your cast iron heats up on the bottom, that heat actually grows into the center. So if you put coals in the middle when you're baking, you're going to get a hot spot, and more than likely the center will be burnt by the time everything else is done cooking. So, get everything put around. We're actually doing about 10 on the bottom and 20 on top. That should give us a good 350-degree oven.
And how long will it take to cook this, honey?
Well, let's see. Everything is pretty much already cooked that's in there, especially our meat mixture. So, we will not have to worry about getting anything like that done. So, we'll probably be a good 30-minute cook time to get everything browned up, the cheese melted, and everything heated through again. So we're doing a nice checkerboard on top. Spread out so we're going to get as even as a heat cooking source as possible. And nice big 4 ring around the top. And then we'll do about 4 right here in the middle. And we'll set our timer for about 10 minutes. And then we'll come back like we normally do and rotate our Dutch oven. Alright, first 10 minutes, we're going to rotate the Dutch oven 1/3 of a turn one way. And then we'll take the lid, 1/3 of a turn the opposite direction. Set the timer for 10 more minutes. Alright, it's been a total of 30 minutes cook time. We're going to take the lid off and see how this tamale pie is looking.
Ooh.
Looks about ready, doesn't it?
Oh, man, yes. I'm hungry.
Alright, I think it's ready. Time to eat.
Boy, is that good. Well, that about does it for this weekend getaway. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share. We leave you tonight with the views of the holiday from our hometown.
you.